So I'm chunking in the white still in the top part of her costume and really looking for little creases because that forms to the body. Looking at shading where you can see the rib cages and just the form of the body, how you see the rounded edges. And I'm coming in with my lights and I'm building up and layering up. This isn't just a quick fix. You can't just add a little bit of pink and white and have this done. It has to be layered up in several layers of different colors and built up and sometimes eased out so that things don't look too sharp or too soft. And you're constantly looking at your reference and building up, and you can always tone down and add more white over top of it to kind of smooth things out and kind of blend it. Eventually it's going to get really thick. You're not going to see any of the blue paper coming through. I'm just building this up and using that, and I can always come back and emphasize or add a little short neat strokes to kind of just have a little subtle blend, and then define areas that need to be a little bit sharper, a little bit more contrasted. Some shapes are really dynamic. You see really sharp shape, and some shapes are very soft edged. And with the human figure, it's really important that you capture these little shapes. Every little shape is important because it might define a bone, it might define a muscle, and so it's very important that you draw it how you see it. Sometimes it's just subtle, little, soft, short, neat strokes to build it up. You can see this is really soft. And I'm adding some like yellows in here to brighten it up. Remember, it doesn't have to stick to completely local color. So notice the amount of time spent just on this one little area to build it up and get it just right. Now I'm coming in and I'm going to start in her neck and face. Now be careful here that you draw what you see. I don't even see all of her face. I see her nose, but it's kind of like the underside and the chin. It's so important that you draw the shadow of the jawline correctly. That unique little shape is not difficult to draw, but if it's drawn incorrectly, it will look really off. So remember to draw what you see, not what you think you know about a face or a jawline, especially when somebody is at an angle that you do not normally look at them at. You need to just focus on what you're seeing, not thinking about the fact that, oh, this is the chin, this is the nose. Because from where you're at, if you were only to be looking at that part, you might not be able to tell what that was. So it's very important for the drawing to draw it how you see it. So I'm continuously building up that skin tone, adding a little bit of brightness to it. Now I'm going to come in with the little shapes in the arm. It's so important here, like I see like in like her armpit and her fingers, draw them how you see them. If you try to draw like sausage fingers, it's going to look really weird. And you need to make sure that when you're drawing the fingers, like from this, again from this vanishing point, you can not really tell that those are fingers. So it's so important that you don't think about what you think that they should look like, but you draw them how you see them. And looking for the little shapes are going to help you to get the muscles and everything defined and sharpened up. You can always soften things up later. Her skin tone has a lot of like really nice oranges in it, and that's kind of capturing some of like this warm light. Like you can tell that this was a nice warm day. So bringing in some of those oranges into her skin tone, the oranges and yellows really kind of emphasize what that feeling of that day is. And occasionally you just want to like step back and look. Should look a little bit sharper the further you get back. So again, notice how many layers were built up on this arm. A lot. Defining with a little bit of purple, because from the distance that I'm looking at, I can see those really darks. Now on her leg, there's definitely light that hits, and in the top part of the leg where the light hits, that is always going to be the lightest. Even though there is some kind of like reflective light coming and hitting the underside of her leg, I'm still going to have to go and make that darker, but right now I've kind of like just emphasized it and brought it in because I'll kind of be going over that part. So I'm kind of just chunking in these shapes right now. The lightest areas are always going to be where you're directly hit by light. And I'm like softening that up and bringing in all of the different colors that you see in skin tone. And remember, always, always bring in purple. I'm going to start to like build this up. Looking for the darks. And building up that area as well. And chunking in the little shapes. It takes lots of layers of different colors to create a good skin tone. And then you're constantly kind of going back and forth and looking at it and seeing if it is actually representing what you're seeing. So I'm consistently looking at my reference and really trying to emphasize and trying to capture those shapes and building up.